Hello, EWA Universe. It is EWA Podcast number 24. I am back and better than ever, and I'm glad to have a first-timer on this week, so sit back and enjoy. And welcome, everyone, to the first EWA podcast of 2014. It's me, Craig. I'm your host. And kicking off the 2014 podcast season, I want to welcome someone who's new to the EWA podcast, but very familiar with the EWA as a whole. It's taken a bit of work to get him on, but he wasn't around for the duration of the podcast period, but I'm very excited and happy to have him here. I want to welcome Dan to the EWA podcast. Dan, welcome, my friend.
Good evening.
Now, Dan, I want to start by saying this. I'm severely disappointed because in my head, I had your accent and voice. Whenever I read your post and your Shoutbox comments, I picture them in the voice of Wade Barrett. And now it's like listening to Eugene read them after I've been talking to you.
Thank you very much.
Not a compliment, but no, seriously. Is Wade Barrett from a different part of Europe than you're from? I have no idea about geography over there.
Wade Barrett's from the shitty part of the north. I'm from the classy part of the north of England.
I see.
Yeah.
Now, are any of the EWA faithful from where Wade Barrett is from? Because I want to have them on.
I don't know. I don't talk to people from that neck of the woods.
See, I wanted you to come on and be like, I've got some bad news, Craig.
Yeah,
I'm gonna talk like this for the whole podcast.
If you want me to make it fucking easy for you, son, I can talk in a fucking Cockney accent like stamming out a snatch or Lockstock. Ain't no fucking problem with me, son.
Yeah, see, I wouldn't recommend it, but it did sound cool. So
I could do that if it makes it easier for you, mate. Whatever you want.
No, I just want you this is your natural environment. Just be natural, baby. That's all that matters. Dan has been around the EWA for a long time. Dan was one of the big players, not that he isn't now, but Dan was in the Grand Slam title scene when I first joined the EWA almost a couple years ago around this time. Had a long-running feud with Steve Carino. You left for a while, but keeping things consistent, you came back with Birchill, didn't try and do it with a new character, and that's always fun and exciting. But let's talk about your beginnings. What brought you to the EWA? How did you find it? And what was your early experience with the EWA like?
Oh, God. It was about 3 years ago. And I was making some feeble attempt to write what could only be classed as a shit novel. I had a bit of writer's block. I thought, what can I do? I remember doing some e-fedding about 15 years ago. Thought I'll give it another go, why not? Be a laugh. And Googled eFeds and the EWA seemed to pop up. And it was one of those things, it just fit, from the application you could tell at the time John was running the place, and it just, within about 15 minutes of applying, I had people PMing me and saying that my application, you just get that sort of welcoming feeling, and you think, yeah, I'll fit in here because I'm a twat and they're all twats as well, so it'll be great.
Yeah. Now, when you first started here, and I wasn't around then, so I don't know. This is just me asking a generic question. Don't read too far into this, anyone who's listening. But when you first started in the EWA, did you feel like there was like an old guard or an old boys club whenever you got here?
It took me a while to find my feet and to find to get the lay of the land, if that makes sense. I didn't really... I didn't know who was who, I didn't know who was controlling who, I didn't know whose characters were who, I didn't really know where people stood, and you get the impression that there were some people that obviously have an external friendship from beyond that, and I can understand that to someone coming in you might feel that it's a bit of a clique going on, but I think you just have to weigh it up. I didn't feel like there was anything suppressing me in any way or curtailing my... I didn't feel that there was anything that would stop me from doing what I wanted to do or, put any sort of reins on me. I mean, from day one, as I say, John was running the show, and if I had an idea and I wanted to run it by him, he was, straight away, yes or no, and really supportive and things like that. And I didn't feel like there was any sort of clique or any sort of old guard or anything like that. Maybe I missed all that. I don't know.
Well, like I said, I have no idea, and I wasn't around then, but it was just something that I wanted to ask. Now, when you joined, we all know now those who see it now probably see a different iteration of the Paul Burchill character, but when you were really at your prime, 2012, with the Burchill character and the rich development that you had, how would you describe the Paul Burchill character during his Grand Slam title run in 2012?
Jesus, Ed Case, mentalist, in Fruit Loop, whatever you wanted to call him. He was always a bit unhinged, and I say I'm completely lying. I think everybody that plays a character in the EWA is some sort of Tyler Durden character to their own inner psyche. And Christ, I worry if that's the path I've got to go down. God help us. He was just one of those people that I brought him in as an enforcer. He wasn't going to be anything but a secondary character to the tag team that I was running at the time. He was just going to be a bit of a big lump in the background that was a bit of an East End gangstery type sort of enforcer. And I don't know how it happened, but he ended up just turning into this stalker, freaky sex pervert.
Yeah,
that belonged on a register. That was it, really. He just snowballed. It was one of those things he took on a life of his own.
Right, and, to be honest, and I don't know if this is a compliment per se, but I really thought that you, wrote that kind of character very well. And, no, seriously, I remember reading your stuff, and while half of it is in a dialect I don't understand, it was really, I'm just kidding, but it was really just like it was out there, and more so than anything, it was different than what anyone else at the time was doing, and really probably different than what anyone right now would be doing too.
Yeah.
Where did you kind of come up with that direction, and did anything inspire you or serve as an idol, not an idol per se, but just an example to follow?
The only thing I can sort of liken it to is there was a bit of. Do you remember the film Kiss the Girls?
Yeah.
Morgan Freeman, Casanova, that sort of perfect. A policeman during the day, and then at night time just a psychopath that collects women and believes every sort of bullshit yarn that he churns out is correct, and he's irresistible. And he just struck me as a perfect psychopath, just the ability to change and blend in with what he thought. Granted, he was going off and doing all these crazy, sexual deviant things, but to him that was perfectly normal. And yeah, I don't know whether I would say inspired so much, but just any sort of general serial killer and freak. There's a bit of all of them in there. Ted Bundy.
Right. Do you think the way that you played the Burchill character is something that, in terms of wrestling, could only be done in an EFED or EWA type setting? That's probably not a character you think the WWE could get away with today, right? Or at any point.
I don't think the WWE would get away with it. I don't watch TNA so much anymore, but the only character that's got me intrigued at the moment is Samuel Shaw. Have you seen any of his promos?
I haven't. I did see the application, and it looks quite intriguing.
Yeah, he's doing a Patrick Bateman cross between Dexter Morgan gimmick, where he's just I think that's just probably as close as you're going to get to the Burchill sort of character. I mean, obviously there's the sex and the violence is escalated to a ridiculous degree in an EFED because you can get away with it, and you couldn't get away with it on network television, but I think that's probably as close a character as you're ever going to get to it. I don't think anyone would have the bottle to push it to that sort of degree, whereas with this you can. I mean, you can pretty much say what you want and do what you want and have your character doing anything within reason of murdering someone.
Yeah.
I mean, that's probably where New would draw the line. I don't know. I might try
Challenge
it.
accepted. Now let's talk about 2012 and the meat of 2012. You had an almost year-long feud. It was definitely as long as I was there in 2012, where Paul Burchill and Steve Corino were going toe-to-toe and head-to-head. And this is two very contrasted styles. Like the way John was playing Carino at that time, he was just like he was the perfect foil for what you had Burchill doing. Talk about how that story came together, and talk about your time working with John for that long of a period of time.
I mean, there was some people, when I started, there was some people that I just had it in my head that I wanted to work with and just go against, mainly because I knew it would be a test, and what we often all forget is that this is a competition. It's between us, you're trying to beat the other guy with your own abilities of crafting something that is just to be better than what they're knocking out. So I knew I'd have my work cut out for me going against John, and when he won, I think it was the Civil War, and I managed to beat Bick, which I thought was a bloody close call at the time, because Bick was just riding the crest of a wave with the Rock, because he was pulling it off so well.
Yeah.
And towards the end of the feud, I dropped John in it, to be completely fair, and shit in real life gets in the way, and I didn't do it justice towards the end that I should have done it. And I regret that, but the feud itself, I thought it worked out brilliantly. Just the things that, John had dropped one sentence in there, and it just inspired me to do something, take that and fucking run with it. And he was, I think I was the same with him. We threw the family in there, we threw Steve Carino's kid into it, his sister. I was just thinking, what is the lowest point this guy will go to get one over on this, within the context of a wrestling match? And
yeah, because it kind of seemed like week after week would be like, well, what are they going to do to top this? And then it seems like you would always kind of find something or some way to top what you had done just previously. Coming out of that feud, is there a specific moment or maybe moments that were your favorite part of that?
My favourite part of it was Colby turning on his dad and going off to live with these two bloody aristocrats in a castle somewhere where he just became a little slave. Mm-hmm. That was my favourite part, and then the whole fake pregnancy thing, which again, like I say, I didn't do justice towards the end, but I would have liked to have explored that a little bit more and got a little bit more psychological and a bit more emotional blackmail coming into it, but unfortunately it didn't pan out quite the way I would have. And it's difficult as well, because I lost a couple of the matches to John, so it's like, where do you go from here? Because granted, if you in a scripted wrestling feud, it would be a bit more even, so that the story balanced out a little bit more.
Well, let's be honest, in a scripted storyline fashion, the face would get beat down repeatedly until he was able to rise up and finally make that adjustment. But with the world that
I know sell everything that happened to him, but that's why wrestling's shit nowadays.
Yeah, but in the universe that this game, or whatever you want to call it, is set in, that Newt has the responsibility of having the better man, the better person during a match win, whether that's face or heel or.
I know. But sometimes when you've got an idea of where you're going to go with the story, and the match doesn't pan out with the after effect, with the result that you're expecting, it can often sort of flip the story on its head and leave you at a bit of a crossroads and not really know where to go with it. So it does get difficult. But no, working with John, I mean, he's a star. Anybody that gets involved in a feud with him, I don't know what qualifications he's got as a writer, but if he wanted to be a bloody writer, he could quite easily do it. I mean, there's a couple of people within this whole fed that, if they put their minds to it, if they wanted to be professional writers, I don't doubt for a minute they could do it, because there's some real talent there. And John's one of those people, and I don't know whether he's been rewarded for it with the titles and things that his characters have, but I don't know whether he understands how bloody good he is.
Yeah. I think his modesty is just like his finest quality.
Yeah.
Like he literally has no idea how talented he is.
Yeah, he doesn't.
Or he does, and he's just the smuggest prick I've ever met in my life.
Cool bastard. He says, I do not give a shit.
Yeah, he probably just goes to work and he's like, well, boys, won another writing contest on the internet. Yeah. Y'all can go fuck yourselves. They're like, oh, fuck that John. Fuck him for saying that shit again. That smug motherfucker. I guarantee you that's probably what happens. Yeah. Everyone,
microphone. How dare he?
Yeah, everyone at John's work hates him because he brags about his internet wins all the time. well, boys, another internet writing win for me. Man, fuck that guy. Every week he comes in here bragging.
I want to know if he buys himself trophies and awards to himself. Little shit.
I have to believe that since Super Bowl, he's been wearing one of those replica belts around everywhere he goes.
Yeah. Do you know what? The problem is I started confusing Steve Carino with John.
Oh, yeah?
I think if I ever met Steve Carino, I'd be like, did you remember that time when Paul Burchill kidnapped your son and fucked him up the arse? And
here's the thing, though. After the whole tweeting incident with Steve Carino, I don't think Steve Carino knows what his own reality is right now.
What happened there?
You didn't see that last week?
No,
well,
I didn't see that. No.
Apparently, he used his Twitter account to promote a show or a thing he had coming up. And Steve tweeted him and said, "You need to update some of your photos of your promotional stuff so you can have new photos." And Carino tweeted Steve back and said, "I don't make the posters." To which I decided to jump in and I tweeted a picture of the Slam banner of Steamboat versus Carino and said, yeah, we need, I was like, this is a pretty good picture, right? And he never responded. So
and you're now blocked.
That's what the word is. And I sent John a private message and apologized. I'd like to apologize publicly. John, if you're blocked by Steve Carino, I truly am sorry.
I'm not. I think it's fucking hilarious.
And then later on in the week, when it was Brett's birthday, I got Val Venus to tweet happy birthday to Brett.
Oh, and he did it?
Yeah, he did it.
Fuck. That's brilliant. That actually cheers me up no end. If you can track Paul Burchill down for me, because no bugger knows where he is, I'll be delighted.
What is he doing in real life right now?
I heard he'd gone off and become a fireman.
Oh, that makes sense.
I'm bitterly disappointed to find out he's not a sex offender.
But, whoa, that doesn't mean he isn't one. It just means he hasn't been caught.
Yeah, okay, semantics.
That's a huge, huge difference. Trust me, I know from experience. A friend of mine is one, but just hasn't been caught. I'll just leave it at that.
Do you have to go knocking on doors to tell people that you've moved into the neighbourhood? Can we just clarify that now?
That's not required, I've heard. For some things.
Little posters of you up in your front garden on little placards.
I just ripped those down in the commons area. Never mind this picture of this guy. Yeah, okay, so you take some time off towards the end of 2013. You make I don't want to downplay it, but you make a smaller scale comeback around May of 2013 and through the summer, working an angle with Jeff and Dylan as Steve Blackman. Talk about that and what you guys were doing there.
Again, something I started and should have finished and put a bit more effort into finishing, but Jeff was someone I really wanted to work with. His work as Tanaka was just phenomenal, and I really wanted to work with him. And I love working with Dylan because he makes me befoul myself with laughter, just by breathing, basically. And the idea was that there was this trifecta of Steve Blackman and Paul Burchill and Tanaka emerging all the heads of all these stables and factions, and again, just shit in reality got in the way of it, and I couldn't do it justice. I couldn't spend the time to sit down and do it, and I said to Dylan, use what you need to do. I'm going to be away for a while, and then I lost my computer and had to buy a new one and lost my passwords and all that shit, and then you just think, just work gets in the way, life gets in the way, and we never did it justice. But the idea was that we were going to have this three-way bloody Hydra monster, and ultimately Dylan wanted to put Blackman on the shelf, so we orchestrated Tanaka being a bit of a amnesiac, and Dylan and Jeff did all that work. I mean, I did fuck all because I was a lazy bastard and couldn't commit to it. But yeah, I mean, it's two regrets. I should have finished what I started with John and done it more justice, and I should have seen that through to fruition. But shit gets in the way, doesn't it?
Yeah, and that happens, and that's certainly no stranger to any other member of the EWA roster and universe. We all know that real life comes before anything else. You probably have more things to deal with. You have a spouse and children, whereas most of us are just single white males in our 20s that don't have any responsibilities or anything.
I do have a few responsibilities, 4 of them. Well, 5. I can't really say my wife's my responsibility. It's not.
There's a lot of little McAllisters running around over there, huh?
All little deviants, yeah.
Any of them named Paulton? Little Paulton McAllister?
No, that's a shitty little village near where I live, where my local Tesco's is.
Paulton?
Yeah, it's just a crappy little shit village.
Now, you know that Steve has vehemently been outspoken about hating you calling Paul Burchill Paulton Burchill.
Yeah.
And do you want to... The floor is now yours to rebuttal and explain yourself.
Fuck you, Steve, you prick.
Good enough. You heard it here first, ladies and gentlemen.
I found it. It was one of those things I was trying to make Nicholas Magnus, and Desmond Wolfe, try to make him sound a little bit more educated and upmarket, and I thought, Paul is not a royal name. He's not regal in any way, shape or form. And I didn't want to change the guy's first name, so I thought, you know what, just be pretentious, stick something on the end of it, double barrel it, do something. And I thought, fuck it, I'm just going to make it the name of this stupid little village where Tesco's is.
And that's how Paulton was born.
And that's how he was born. And believe me, there are some inbred people there who would make Burchill's shenanigans look like Disneyland. There's some 6-toed, 4-eyed freaks there.
They sound like some of the EWA faithful.
Yeah,
just saying.
It's like Wrong Turn sometimes.
Now, what's the relationship between Paulton and Katie?
Oh God.
What's the actual physical relationship between them?
The backstory was that his mother and father died in a car crash, and that her father was some rich magnate who adopted the 2 boys, him and his brother. So he was technically her stepbrother type thing, and basically just fuck buddies, because they were aristocrats and they were deviants, and that was the twisted little backstory that I came up with for them. And she was manipulating him, and it was absolutely, he was sort of happy to go along with it, and was more than happy to be coerced into any sort of shenanigans. But yeah, she was the organ grinder to his big sexy monkey.
Well, you were the most recent women's champion before Sable, weren't you?
Yes. Oh yeah, Christ, I was. Yeah, I actually forgot about that because I won the title and then fucked off. So unfortunately, I don't think I got to defend it. I won the title, and then that's when I had to take my hiatus. But I did. Yeah, I won the title with her. I was actually looking forward to doing something with her and pushing her on in her own right, because she'd just been sort of a character within his story. I mean, it was a bloody good thing for him to have. I mean, she debuted as she debuted under a veil as the Duchess of Queensberry,
right, against
Evan Bourne about 2 months after Burchill debuted. So, I mean, she was with him pretty much from the start.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working with the lad that was playing Evan Bourne, and we were redoing do you remember the William Regal, Chris Jericho, Duchess of Queensberry rules, where Regal was basically making the rules up as he went along for Jericho's European title, back when wrestling was good. And so we redid that, and the Duchess in this occasion was Katie, Catherine, as we were calling her, and she helped him get one over on...
Catherine de Winter, or something like that, right?
I just threw all their names together again just to make her sound a bit more pretentious and posh.
Yeah.
She was Burchill de Winter or something like that. It was just one of those things. It just fit in with this whole sort of... I was thinking of that joke, The Aristocrats, where you just try and make it as depraved as possible from conception to the finish. And so I just thought, throw all these crazy posh bastards in there together in some sort of hideous hybrid, and just let them do what they're going to do.
And now, pardon my ignorance, I'm having a hard time thinking on my feet here, but were you, at the end of 2013, were you involved in Super Brawl at all?
Yes, I was actually. No, 2013, last year, no, I wasn't. No.
Because the year before you had Magnus in there.
I did, yeah. No, last year I was pretty much absent for most of last year. I made a faltering comeback and won the title with Catherine and sort of wrapped up the Colby thing, but I think just to tie that up for John so that it could move on with Karina. But
right, and now at the start of 2014, you're back, and Birch Hill looks to be crazier than ever. And without giving away any potential spoilers, obviously, why don't you tell us about this most recent Birch Hill comeback and what he's doing and has going on?
Well, I had to find a reason of why you wouldn't have been in the EWA for all that time.
Mm-hmm.
So you think, well, what's the easiest thing to do? Well, let's put him in a loony bin, stick him in an asylum, and at least you can get a bit. I think that just it's going to allow me to do a little bit more, sort of more psychological things with him. I've got this vision of him being locked in a room with all these different personas in front of him, all sort of fighting it out.
like the movie Identity?
Very much so, yes. That was my inspiration. That and sort of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, where you don't really know whether McMurphy's mental or not, or whether he's just playing up to it, or, you know. Because my suggestion for getting Birchall out of it turned out to be William Regal that got him out of the mental hospital, but my original suggestion was just to have the Great Khali just as a token Indian to throw a fountain through the window and let Birchall run off into the night. So just thought that might be a little bit too stupid. Or I was going to have, I think Dylan suggested that we have Magnus and Wolf break him out, like they used to break Murdoch out of the asylum on the A-Team. But again, I wasn't ready to bring Magnus and Wolf back into it, so we opted for. I spoke to Bryce, and we opted for William Regal being a good foil for, obviously for Birchall's fragile mental state.
Right. And now you're back, and while things are generally probably close to the same as when you left, there is a new crop of talent here in the EWA, and there's probably some guys who have been around for a while that you know about, and there are probably guys that have been around for quite a few months that you're not real familiar with them. But from what you've seen since your time back, who are some people that you would you think you would really enjoy working with and doing some stuff character-wise with?
Oh, you'll have to forgive me because I'm not sure of everyone's name.
That's fine. You can say characters.
Yeah. I mean, I think I worked with you and Brett a little bit before with Birchall. We had a little spat over your national title. I'm not sure whether it was Venus's title at the time or...
Right, it was right around King of the Ring, yeah.
Yeah. There's a lot more talent now than I think there ever has been in the couple of years that I've been here. I don't think there's a weak link. I see some people putting stuff out, and I'm surprised, and I think you've got a much more difficult job than he's ever had before, because there's some real fucking effort going into things, and I think people have really stepped up. I don't know whether that's just because we've stumbled upon some really talented people, or whether there are genuinely just everyone's just thinking, right, I want to go for this, I'm stepping up my game, this is what I want to do.
Even though it's a short amount of time since then, it's only been a couple years, besides the crop of talent, do you see any other changes from 2012 to 2014 as far as the EWA is concerned?
I mean, this sort of thing for a kickoff. The social aspect of it, I think, has changed a lot. The interaction between people. I know you guys do like Skype chat, and when you're doing Raw and things like that. Technology is lost on me, so I'll just call it on the internet. You do things on the internet with each other.
You sound like my father once again.
May involve cameras, may involve self-touching. I'll go no further. I think it's better. I think we spoke. I think some of us in the past had spoke. Like John's about 40 minutes away from me, and I think we'd spoke about meeting up. And I don't know whether Andrew, who used to play Adam Bomb, was a brilliant character when I first started. He was in Birmingham, which is like an hour away from where I am, and they were on about doing a bit of an EWA tour. But unfortunately, me being sober and being a miserable bastard and completely antisocial, I tend not to get involved in social situations.
Well,
but yeah,
I can kind of agree with that. I'm sorry, I'm kind of lost for words there, but yeah, like I said, like I said in the Best Of podcast thread, like the way the community has developed in the last 2 years, like I feel like we I know that on the Bagpipe Report they had said some stuff about how, you don't want to haze the new people and stuff, but my God, look at the influx of new talent just in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, we've got to fucking run some of them out of town, or some of us got no chance. How am I going to get my bloody title back with some of these arseholes?
Yeah, and it's just one of those things, too, where of probably the 5 people who joined in the last 2 weeks, the odds of one of them staying is probably higher than 2 through 5 of them staying, Brett brought up the question recently, and I'll pose this question to you now. Of the newer members who have joined, just in your time being returned, who do you think has the best shot of making it to Super Brawl?
Lashley.
You think he'll stick around?
I would like to think so. He seems very committed to it. He's putting the work in. I mean, I don't know.
You know what? More so than that, too, not to interrupt you, but more so than that, he engages in out-of-character discussion in the locker room,
I think that's part of it, I think
yeah, exactly.
Whether you stick around or not, I think if you get involved in all the shit and you call Steve a prick and you get involved in the banter and I think that is a big part of it. You feel like, don't want to get too bloody mushy, but you feel like you're part of something rather than just I'm going on the internet now, I'm pressing a button.
Right.
It's a big part of it, and the outer character section used to be like the be all and end all, and I know we put the shout box in after Sir killed the board, and we were homeless for that period of time and everything, but I think the shout box, I think it's great. I think it's really good to have that on there. I mean, I know they've done little chat rooms and stuff away from the website before, but the social side of it is I think it adds to it. I think it really does add to it, and I think it gives people more comfort and lets people spitball things a lot more, because they can. I think a little bit more of your personality comes out when you're in the, when you're in out of character, unless you're just being a wind-up merchant like I normally am. But that's just me.
You like winding people up, Dan?
I like annoying people. It's highly childish, highly immature, but I don't give a fuck. It amuses me. Things that amuse me, nobody else finds funny, but I find it funny. Just sit there giggling like an idiot in the corner, but that's
everybody pointing at you being like, fuck that guy, and you're like,
yeah, I do it all the time. I do it all the time on Twitter. I like playing devil's advocate, and I like being a cock. And I just like annoying people.
Now, you say that, but at the same time, when it comes to the current WWE product, it seems like you're the voice of the voices. It seems like you're the voice of the mainstream. You're very vehement and toxic towards the current WWE product. And let's be honest, you fucking hate John Cena.
Oh, he's a cunt. Beyond the shadow, I don't give a fuck about how many wishes he grants for sick kids, seriously. He's a cunt. What sort of knobhead sits there and lets them give him that shit script that he churns out? And any man with any pride in his work, and he sits there and does that same bloody Superman match every time. Every storyline's the same. I know in the Superman comics, I know at some point somebody's going to get some kryptonite and wound him slightly, and he might just make a comeback and overcome the odds. I don't need to see it in wrestling. I know it worked for Hulk Hogan, but you know what? When Hulk Hogan used to get fucking beat up, he'd be gone for 3 or 4 months. He'd get squashed the day after WrestleMania, and you wouldn't see him again till the night before SummerSlam. And it's just shit now. It really is. And I don't know whether that's because there's so much of it, but yeah, John Cena's character is that of a cunt.
You need to back off, because Dave Bautista won the Royal Rumble, so they're obviously pushing other talent.
Oh yeah, let's push talent that haven't been on the fucking scene for 4 years and are off to be in Marvel movies. Spawny bastard again. He's only come back because there's a couple more divas that he hasn't knobbed anyway.
Listen, if you don't like it so much, why don't you just fucking quit and be a pussy about it?
Well,
you like Devil's Advocate, you say? Well, here's the biggest one when it comes to WWE product.
That's the thing, right? I don't actually watch it that much anymore, but my eldest son loves it. So I have to sit there and watch it with him. And Dad, look at this. Do you like this much? Do you like this much? And we sat and watched the Royal Rumble, and do you know what? I felt violated afterwards. I avoided the internet all day. I sat there. I got him from work. He got in from his little taekwondo club. Sat down and watched the Royal Rumble, and I just felt fucking robbed. I know Daniel Bryan wasn't advertised to be in it. Nobody wanted Batista to win, so why was he winning? It's the most pointless piece of shit in the world. It's like going to see a film with James Bond in and the baddie cutting him in half with a laser beam. That's how shit the Royal Rumble was.
Now, I have a theory on this that I have yet to share in OOC, and this is, I know I have a tendency to be a sarcastic dick about things, but I want you to listen to this theory real quick. I believe Hulk Hogan ruined the Royal Rumble and the potential that it once held. And just hear me out on this. The first Royal Rumble in 1987, 88, I think it was 88, whatever it was a 20-man Royal Rumble, no championship on the line, won by Hacksaw Jim Duggan. The next year, 1989, again, goes to 30 men, no championship on the line, Big John Studd. Now, the year after, 1990, scheduled to win that Royal Rumble is Mr. Perfect, which would have been a great elevation for his character and a way to push him to the next level.
Is that when Hogan just comes in at the end, kicks out the Perfect,
Hogan
up and just hoists him out the ring?
Yes, Hogan decided roughly an hour before the Royal Rumble that he thought it would be best if he won the Royal Rumble. Hogan went on to win that Royal Rumble and the next one, then Ric Flair, and it evolved into what it is. It should be like Money in the Bank. That's how I feel about it. It should be used to elevate talent to the next level. If Kofi Kingston is such a fucking badass in these Royal Rumbles and does awesome stuff, why can't he win it? It doesn't have to be a WrestleMania title shot on the line. There could just be an Elimination Chamber title shot on the line. Let Kofi Kingston win a Royal Rumble. Let Bray Wyatt win a Royal Rumble. Let this Royal Rumble be, let it be, for lack of a better term, the Money in the Bank. Let
it be something in its own right, rather than just the opportunity to go and have a match that you're going to have on fucking Raw the next night anyway.
Exactly. So. Dave Bautista doesn't need a Royal Rumble win to come out and say, I want a fucking title shot.
No.
Last year was the worst, because John Cena, as much as I'll defend him as being entertaining at times, John Cena doesn't need a Royal Rumble win to come out on Raw and say, I want a title shot. You're fucking John Cena. Just come out and say, I want a title shot, and you'll get one because you have that credibility. The Royal Rumble has a chance to give that credibility to people that don't have it. Guys like Kofi Kingston, Bray Wyatt, Cody Rhodes, for lack of a better option, it has a chance to elevate these guys. Antonio Cesaro, if he'd have won and you just threw him in the Elimination Chamber, who wouldn't fucking mark out for that? Everybody on the internet loves him,
Who wouldn't have been delighted when it came down to the last two men of Roman Reigns and Batista for Roman Reigns to throw Batista out over the top rope?
Oh, yeah.
You want to make your next biggest star? You want to make your next John Cena? You do that. Then you have the Shield come out and get pissed off that he's won it. He beats them down, throws them out of the ring again, and he's a fucking big face for the next 10 years. They had the opportunity then to do that. I don't doubt that they will still do that with Roman Reigns, but
right.
The Royal Rumble has been the drizzling shit since Triple H was injured for years and came back and won it. Then you just know whoever's injured. If it's John Cena or Sheamus or Edge or whoever, somebody's going to come out at number 30 or 27 and bloody win it if they've been gone for a couple of months.
Right.
Like you say, the same guys are winning it, and they don't need to be winning it. It just serves no purpose anymore. And I know the whole thing's a storytelling device anyway, but it's a shit story.
Right, and I kind of felt bad for a guy like Wade Barrett when fucking El Torito gets a spot and fucking R-Truth gets a spot and a gimmick. Yeah, Kevin Nash, and then a gimmick that has been getting over on the web show, JBL and Cole, and recently in arenas, the Bad News Barrett character, that's been getting over. But no, we're not even gonna utilize this great talent that we had main eventing SummerSlam less than 3 years ago in a Royal Rumble. Instead, we're gonna put these shit characters like the Uso brothers out there.
What's the point of a tag team being in the Royal Rumble, or one member of a tag team being in the Royal Rumble?
Will Jey Uso go to WrestleMania and face... No,
he won't. He'll get fucking thrown out in 2 minutes. So let's just not kid ourselves. Let's put people in it that have got a chance of winning it.
Yeah, and you could use the Royal Rumble to... Wade Barrett doesn't have to win it to help legitimize the Bad News character.
No.
And it's just like I think somebody said on the forum or on Reddit, or I think it might have been Bryce on the forum, but if Bad News Barrett had come out at 30 when everybody was going hard for Bryan and been like, I've got some bad news for you.
That would have been perfect.
Daniel Bryan isn't in the Rumble, but I am. And then it would have got Bad News Barrett over, and it would have got the Daniel Bryan storyline over all at the same time.
You know what else would have got Wade Barrett over? Actually beating John Cena when he had 15 men or however many there was in the frigging Nexus. And John Cena again overcame the odds because he's a cunt. He should have vetoed that. He should have said, no, I want to make these guys into something big that will make this business and this company better. This guy could be a future main eventer, but no, instead I'm going to bury him under 500 chairs. Literally going to bury him. There we go.
Were you around last year when Anthony was playing the John Cena character?
No, I must have missed that.
It was tried and true. It was like the John Cena character down to a T. It was hustle, loyalty, and respect.
Really?
I would love to see Anthony come back with that Cena character and feud with Paul Burchill.
Yeah, I would just rape him. Paul Burchill would literally rape him. I would have
there would be literally raping.
Yeah, I would have a gimp. He would be tied up. There would be ball and gag. There would be no lubricants. It would just be full on violation, and that is what John Cena, the character, deserves.
What about the man? What about John Cena, the person?
Well, he's got a square head that looks like it's made out of Lego, but he's banging one of the Bellas, and he's had a fair few women in there as well. You shag Mickey James, he can't be all that bad.
Yeah. Now, are there any current WWE roster guys that you do enjoy watching?
It's the WWE product I have a problem with. I mean, I watched the Royal Rumble. Bray Wyatt, I think that's a fantastic character. I think that family, I saw it sort of develop in NXT, because we get that over here, because we're special, or special needs, but we get it anyway. So we get that normally before Raw. So I've seen that character sort of develop, and I mean, I know it's a bit of a Waylon Mercy throwback, which again I thought was a character when I was a kid. I thought that was a bloody brilliant character. I thought, oh, this guy's, it's Cape Fear. I loved that film. And I thought, oh, it's going to be like Max Cady, but it never came to fruition. Mm. But I think Bray Wyatt's superb. I think I read that he's writing his own stuff and everything, and if he is, then he's doing a bloody good job of it. I think he's brilliant. But even that match he had with Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble, I thought was really, it was a really well orchestrated and put together match. And Bryan and CM Punk's pissing me off. I mean, I think he's been phoning it in for about 2 years now. I don't know what's crawled up his ass, but he's either started believing his own hype or he's just got a lazy fucker. But he's gone off the boil. I think Cesaro could be a breakout star if they let him. They're looking for a face of the WWE, and I keep trying to call it WWF. That's how stuck in the past I am. I still refer to it as the WWF at times. I'll have pandas kicking my door down in a minute and kicking the shit out of me. I mean, like you said, that Bad News Barrett character could get over. Try to repair somebody that should have been main eventing by now. Ryback fucking buried him after that stupid bloody Brad Maddox thing, and then losing to John Cena and getting put in an ambulance and all that crap. And he just.
By the way, if you're not following Ryback on Twitter, you're missing. Like, I don't know.
Is he turned into like the Ultimate Warrior's bastard love child or something?
I don't know if he's developing a character on Twitter or if he's literally just gone off the rails at this point.
Or he's. Yeah, I mean,
because the stuff he's writing on there recently is so far out there. It's out there.
Has he started like cutting promos and snorting and talking about planes flying into buildings with Stephen Hogan? He's just if he's doing that, he might actually get over. He needs some faith.
No one is driving the plane into the ground. Hogan. Again, if you haven't seen the WrestleMania 6 promo, maybe I can splice that in somehow to this podcast right here.
Probably my favourite ever promo. It was just back when I used to drink. I think that was like a conversation that you used to hear in pubs. That's pretty much just fucking lunacy, is what it is. But there's none of that in wrestling anymore, and I think that's why I hate it so much, because I've got such, even that sort of Hulkamania era, you've still got things like that. You've still got things like the Barber's Shop and Roddy Piper and Piper's Pit. And you
got Miz TV.
Oh yeah, fantastic. I mean, is he a heel or a face? What the fuck is he, apart from a twat?
Now, didn't you just hear recently that Vince McMahon came out and said that there are no more heels and faces?
Then he's clearly gone insane and senile in his old age, and he needs to just shuffle off into a retirement home, because I don't know if he realises this or not, but he's aiming his product at children, and they need heroes and villains. And you can have a bit of an anti-hero, but ultimately, good has to triumph over evil in the end.
Mm-hmm.
Not in the way of John Cena doing it every single time. You've got to lose a little bit for it to be believable, but nobody wants to see wrestling with shades of grey. I especially don't want to see wrestling with 50 Shades of Grey. That would be genius. Unless it was like somebody spanking Trish Stratus or something like that. But no, don't go down that route. I'll save that for Birchall. No, you can't just flip a product on its head. Storytelling is good versus evil, and if he's losing sight of that, then he's a fucking idiot. And I don't care how much money he's got. I tell him if I ever met him. I tell him I think he's a fucking idiot for doing it. I don't know who he's aiming at anymore. I don't understand what his target audience is. Who's his demographic? Because it's fucking lost me. And I always loved wrestling because I always said it was like a soap opera with violence. You could tune in every week and you knew what was going on, and it was entertaining. It was like watching an Arnold Schwarzenegger film. All right, you know it's cheesy. You know there's shit dialogue. You know at some point there's going to be some ridiculous puns, and you know Arnie's going to win in the end. But it's bloody entertaining for 90 minutes or an hour or whatever it's on for. And I just don't get that anymore. I don't know whether it's because I've got older and miserable and less tolerant of things in general, but I don't see that it's... And I'm not living with some sort of rose-tinted spectacles of how great things were in the past. I think you've got people like Dean Ambrose, who if you let him go off and be what he clearly wants to be, which is this generation's Jake the Snake Roberts, the guy would piss it, and he'd be brilliant at it. But they just seem to have these shackles on people. If you don't want to have heels and faces, take the gloves off and just let people do what they want to do, and let the cream rise to the top and the shit fucking go down to TNA or whatever they do nowadays.
Yeah,
it's just simple as that. I don't understand why try and fucking rip down the foundations and the fundamental basics of what professional wrestling is.
And that has been the 25-minute penis and Dan's anus.
That is my penis and my anus. WWF.
Yeah. In all seriousness, Dan, I'm going to go ahead. It's been a rather great talk, and I've enjoyed talking with you. I'm going to go ahead and try and wrap it up here. I do have one, actually, serious question I want to ask you.
Yeah.
I'm ecstatic that the Birchall character is back. I've seen your best work, and I know what you're capable of at the highest level. That being said, though, in your personal opinion, Dan, are your best years of the Birchall character and writing in front of you or behind you?
I came back this time because I didn't think I was going to come back. I thought I was just doing the thing for John, because I honestly thought he was retiring Carino, and I thought it would be a farewell thing. But I opened up my little word pad and I started writing his promo, and I thought, do you know what? This fucker's going back for his title. And I came back this time with the intention I want that little gold writing on my name at the bottom, and I want that little logo if it hasn't been fucking deleted because we've been fanning about with the boards again. That little gold belt just under my avatar, I want that back. So I will do everything within my ability to make it happen again. So yeah, I would say there's a lot more to come from him. He's a long way from finished.
Well, I think I speak for myself, obviously, and everyone else in the EWA universe that if that does ring true, and I have no doubt that you will attempt that, I am looking forward to it. And just a small little phrase for you, Dan. If you want to be the man, you have to go beat the man.
Who's got the belt at the moment?
Some asshole.
Yeah, some twat. I'm coming for you.
Coming for you, twat.
Yeah, that's fucking John again, isn't it? No, I've got my belt back. Yeah, I want it back. I want it back. Fucking give it back. I'll do another voicemail message for you.
Oh, yeah. You always come up with these new and innovative ways to talk shit, don't you? Whether it be crazy political videos or writing. I remember I had a match against Magnus at Night of the Living Damn where, you wrote your role plays on, Microsoft Word in a font, and then, you took a screenshot of that and then, posted the screenshots. I was like, what the fuck is going on? How am I supposed to respond to this?
I just wanted to send it like a letter. I imagined him sat at a desk, with a quill. Right. Yeah. It's all bollocks. It just, like I said, it amused me, so I did it.
Yeah. Well, I can say that a lot of your stuff is really entertaining, and I like the direction that the Birchall character has right now, and you have a ton of, I don't have to tell you this, obviously, but you have a ton of potential writing material, especially with Burchill being in the quote-unquote nut house for all that time. So I'm looking forward to it, Dan. Is there anything that you personally would like to say to the rest of the EWA universe before we call it a day here?
Yes, thank you very much for listening, you twats.
I'm sure that if they didn't appreciate you now, they certainly do. So.
I love them all dearly.
Well, Dan, I want to thank you for coming on. You've been a fantastic guest. Looking forward to doing this again. And looking forward to working with Burchill down the road. Hopefully sooner than later, but you never know whenever our paths might cross.
Yes,
okay?
Thank you very much.
Thanks for listening, guys. And if you want to come on the EWA podcast, feel free to shoot me a PM, and we can go over Skype names and all that stuff and get something set up. And I want to thank everybody for listening. And here's to a great 2014 in the EWA and the podcast universe. Thanks for listening. Bye.